And that leaves us with the odd one out, I would say. The one that is way more of a question mark for me, and that is K9. And K9 gets support in Doom of Dimensions, obviously, and it is good support. I want to preface that. I think the K9 support is really strong. Let's look at it together. We have K9 04 Noroi. If your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, you can normal summon this card without tributing. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is normal summoned, you can special a non-machine K9 from your deck, but you cannot special from the extra deck except K9 while you control that face-up monster. You can send a face-up K9 card you control to the grave to look at your opponent's hand. This is giving K9 an actual good normal summon, because previously a lot of the K9 decks, I mean, K9 has Yugioh, Lantern, Izuna, and Lupus, none of which, I mean, all of them you can normal summon, except for Lupus, actually. Lupus does not have the normal summon clause, like with the 2 cards in hand. But like, you know, you never wanted to normal summon them. Noroi is pretty damn powerful, if you really think about it. And we can talk about that real quick. Just before anything else, I can show you. Let's pretend this is a Noroi. I'll show you what one Noroi can do as a normal summon. So you normal summon Noroi, and you special summon a Yugioh. You can use the Yugioh here, but you can also play around Droll and Lockbird, but it plays more into Imperm. So let's just say we use it to search Lantern. Then we obviously have to make a K9 here because we're locked into K9 while we control that Yugioh. So we're gonna go for Ripper. Ripper is going to search us an Izuna. We're gonna use Lantern to bring back the Yugioh. We're gonna now use Lantern to search Case for K9. We're gonna activate Case for K9 for another Yugioh. Oh, we have to detach the Noroi, my bad. We have to detach the Noroi. So it's here. Yeah. Then we're going to use Yugioh to special summon the Izuna from hand because we haven't done that yet. We're going to use Izuna to send the Lupus. And what we have here is a 1-card combo that makes Ripper plus 4 monsters with different names. We can take a look at our opponent's hand here if we want to, with the Noroi effect by sending the case. That's basically free, so we can check out what we're dealing with. And you can make Yugioh Scaldred here. To draw 4 cards, put 3 back, and then special summon a monster from your hand. And this, essentially, is the reason why this engine, the K9 engine, can still be considered basically a starter for every K9 variant. Like, when you're playing, let's say K9 Vanquish Soul, right? K9 Vanquish Soul lost a lot of resources, a lot of starters from the ban list. But now, if you open with Noroi, you can dig 4 cards deeper into your deck with Yugioh, and then special summon, because of course you use up your normal summon with Noroi, but I think that's why this combo is so powerful. You use up your normal summon, but you get a Yugioh, which can special summon 1 from your hand. So like it doesn't really matter that much that you lose your normal summon. And all of this is basically protected from hand traps because you already have a Ripper super early, right? So you get Yugioh plus Ripper off of 1 card, which I think is really, really busted. The reason why I'm referring so much to K9 hybrid variations like K9 Vanquish Soul is I think K9 still suffers from the problem that a pure K9 deck I don't think is feasible, because you have, in terms of 1-card starters, you really only have 3 Case and 3 Noroi. And honestly, the where's the 3rd Noroi? Didn't I have another face down card somewhere here? You can play 3 Case and 3 Noroi, which technically get you to your 1-card combo normal summon. And then you can play 3 Yugioh and 3 Chaotic Elements, I guess, to search for any 2-card combos. And that's basically it. At this point, if you're playing a pure K9 deck, you would have to look into other forms of consistency, like Pot of Prosperity, Pot of Extravagance, 7th Tachyon, 7th Ascension, but then you're locked into Exceed, so you can't do the Saryuja. Small World, everything it's not quite optimal in terms of consistency for pure K9 decks. But the Noroi can basically be a starter for any K9 hybrid as well. So I think with this card existing now, you're probably gonna want to find another version, like another hybrid. I don't know if it's K9 Vanquish Soul, I don't know if it's K9 Christian, but those decks definitely, you know, benefit from that. I think one problem with this card is that it's a very, very obvious choke point for decks that rely on it for consistency. Like, for example, if you are playing K9 Vanquish Soul and you do commit to a normal summon of Noroi and you activate its effect, and that's how you're trying to get to Raisin or Madlove, if this thing gets impermed, which is the worst case scenario, because against imperm you can't even extend with Izuna, you're gonna have a problem with this as your starter when it gets interacted with. It also is going to be it's not nearly as good of a starter into something like Fuva, right? Like against Fuva, if you start with this, you're already summoning one from the deck, even if your K9 stuff is live after because they Fuva'd. You're gonna give them a lot of cards, as opposed to, like, let's say you go Jokul with something and then they Fuva on res, they haven't drawn any cards yet, and you can basically go Ripper, set the quick play spell in one draw, which is not the same if you start with Noroi. The hand knowledge effect is also nice, but at the same time, like, it is relevant. No, I don't want to pretend like the hand rip effect is not super powerful. It is super powerful. Being able to know your opponent's entire hand and play around it perfectly is really good. But yeah, I basically, the way I feel about K9 summarized is, I don't think pure K9 is it. I do not think pure K9 is it. But the question is, can you find a K9 hybrid that, like, abuses this card but still is, like, good enough into cards like Imperm and Fuva? Because those are things that I'm really worried about with this deck. But there are versions out there, you know, people are messing around with. I've seen K9 Christian still, which I think is totally still viable. I've seen K9 I've seen people cope on K9 Vanquish Soul still. I've seen people play K9 Memento, so on and so forth. I think, like, I think it's possible. The question is, are those decks actually better than the other decks in the format? But what I will say is that K9 decks inherently, like, by playing Izuna, I think Izuna is a very high quality card against both Draco Tail and Mitsurugi. So if those decks are popular, which it looks like they will be, I think playing a K9 deck with those cards inherently is going to be pretty good. I think K9 without Paradise Smasher is going to be very bad into Fuva though. What do you make versus Mitsu? It's not about, like, it's not that much about disrupting them like crazy. I think it's more about the fact that, like, if you draw Izuna, you can disrupt them slightly. Like at the end of their combo, you can just make Nesh Knight and take the IP Masquerena, for example. And then you're gonna have a Lupus in the graveyard, which they cannot play around on your turn, right? Like basically it's just a lot of advantage for you, right? You make their life harder while also creating a Lupus in your grave that you are gonna have next turn because they are gonna play into it, right? You can't do that. Futsu will revive a bunch of bodies and they make another IP. Yeah, but you have a Nash Knight on the board that can suck again. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Then you take the Futsu first, I guess, if you're worried about another IP. Also, they have to play 2 IPs first and not banish one with Extravagance. Or you can take the Murakumo and make it harder for them to actually wipe if they don't have 2 in rotation. I think it's hard to argue that Izuna is a good card against Mitsurugi. I think Izuna is a good card against every deck that always plays into it. Like, if there's ever a deck that just cannot play around Izuna, Izuna is a good card in the matchup, and it becomes even better if that deck is like a grindy deck. If that deck, like, I mean, sure, against K9 Vanquish Soul, sometimes Izuna was live, but they would still auto-win against you, so it didn't matter. But against decks like Mitsu or Draco Tail, which are not as auto-win, Izuna is a really good card in the grind game because it just gives you some advantage when you use it, but you also set up a lupus for future turns, which is another free body that you're gonna have. So I think it's hard to argue that it's not a high quality card. It doesn't auto win you the matchup, but not every card you play against Mitsu or Dracotail has to auto win you the matchup. I think K9 has a lot of potential. My problem is, like, is it really better than the other decks in the format? To which I don't like. I feel like when you're playing a deck like K9 Crystron and you're relying on the new K9 normal summon to do your combos, and you no longer have a Paradise Smasher to insulate from something like Fuva or Perulia, I find it hard to. I mean, Perulia is not that bad against Crystron, but you know what I mean, right? It's like you're playing a deck that is slightly on the inconsistent side. You're playing a deck that is definitely weaker into Fuva than most other decks in the format. And all that just for like higher ceiling, which I mean, this deck or K9 decks will have the highest ceiling in the format, I think, outside of just like some rogue crazy like Lunalight or whatever. But like K9 is gonna have very high ceiling. But is that needed? Is that the best approach for the format? I'm not sure, especially because decks like Dracotail and Yami and Mitsu are really good at even playing into like higher ceiling boards. So unless you lock them out of the game completely with like a Paradise Smasher, which you can't anymore, or like the Artifact, I guess, is something you could do, you might not be able to outlast them with K9 Crystron, because K9 Crystron does not have the greatest follow-up in the world. But we'll see. I guess the other K9 is also worth mentioning is K9 66X Jax. Is 2 level 5 monsters. If this card is XC summoned, or if your opponent activates a monster effect in the hand or grave, you can detach a material from this card, target a monster on the field, destroy it. You can only use this effect once per turn. A K9 XC's monster that has this card as material gains this effect during any turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or grave. Any battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent is doubled. This is a good card for sure, because it gives you something to rank up into that immediately pops a card, which of course we already had good things to rank up into. You know, Valon was good, Nash Knight was good, but this one being a K9 I think is pretty neat, because like one thing about K9 forced release sometimes was like sometimes your opponent would destroy or get rid of your Ripper before you could actually rank it up. And then the K9 forced release was just there and you wouldn't really have anything. But like, yeah. Now you have another K9 Exceed that you can put in your extra deck, which gives you another target for release. Also, you don't have to rank up into Werewolf anymore, I suppose, if you don't want to. Like, you can also just, because K9 forced release only says target a K9 Exceeds you control, special from your extra deck a K9 Exceeds with a different name by using that monster you control. So you can rank up Ripper into Jax and get another pop instead of a look at their hand, which can be good, because it's actually interesting, because that way you can make the forced release have more impact on the board instead of on the hand, which in some game states is definitely the correct thing to do. So it's a good card. It doesn't completely change like the concept of the deck though. Like, it doesn't fundamentally change how the deck plays. It's just another extra deck option that you're gonna see in a lot of K9 decks. Did you look into the World Legacy level 5? Orcus can search it. I have spent some time looking into other level 5s that you could summon with Jokul. Like, basically, I've tried to explore some K9 synergies over the course of the last couple of days. I will say, for me personally, this might be a me thing, but I personally, at the moment, I don't know what I'm gonna play for YCS Lil yet, but I'm expecting myself to just prefer the play style of something like Dracotail, Mitsurugi, or Yami, because I'm more of a mid-range kind of guy. So I didn't see anything and I was like, yeah, I really want to do that. You know, like I saw some options, you know, Memento K9, Chimera K9, all that stuff. Like there's decks out there with like crazy high ceiling and stuff like that. I just don't know if that's my thing, you know? Like I look at that and I'm like, do I really want a deck with crazier combos and so on when I could also just play like a deck that I really like? like Draco Tail or Mitsu or whatever. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I didn't think that those versions had that much potential over these other decks. But that's also just because I think I inherently prefer those strategies, right? I'm a little biased, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'm a little biased against these high ceiling combo decks because I just typically don't like, yeah, I like that. Isn't the appeal of Memento its resilience? Memento K9 is probably the thing that I could see myself playing the most out of the K9 decks, because I think that deck can probably play around stuff like Fuva decently well. Like let's say you start with Jokol, reveal the horse, special both, then you get Fuvad, probably fine for you. I don't know how well Memento is going to function going second. I don't know how much non-engine space Memento has. I haven't tried that yet. I think K9 Vanquish Soul is being underrated. I don't know. I think Noroi is definitely going to make the deck real again, but I don't think it's being underrated. Because like I don't think the deck is bad. I think the deck is fine, but there's no reason to play it over other decks. Like that's my problem with it. And I think that's true. I think it's not that likely to